Are we live yet?
We're setting it. I think we are any minutes,
Okay.
and we're live.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly roundup. So today we were going to talk a little bit about what's been happening in the Yogapreneur Collective in our group, and talking about something that actually I posted about, which was about raising prices. So if you didn't see the post already, I was talking about just how you break it to people, because sometimes this is like raising prices is a big worry. We worry that people are going to cancel their memberships and they're going to get angry and they're going to get disappointed. And all we really want is to just get as many people as possible just coming to do yoga. So it's a scary thing. I just had, a few sort of simple pointers of how to do it and how to frame the narrative of this, and to kind of stand in your power in a way as well when you do it. So that when you talk about it, how you frame it is talking about sort of the hero's journey narrative, where you are the guide, the studio owner, you are the guide and they are the hero. And you talk about, how you are solving their problems. You give them the aspirational identity, who they're going to become when they've solved their problem. You keep talking about that, the happy outcome, the aspirational identity, but also to a little bit stand in your power and be very clear. When you talk about the prices themselves, you stick to the facts. The price was this, now it is this. We don't apologize, and to be really, really clear about it so that there's no confusion. So I know that Terry and Carol, you've also had conversations with your clients about raising prices, and probably, they have feelings around that. So tell us what's been happening in calls.
Yeah, so I've had this last 2 weeks, several clients looking at raising prices, which is good. You really should do it on a yearly basis. There's not a lot of other industries where they have pricing from 5-6 years ago. Heck, I know a studio that I taught out back in 2009 who has not raised their prices in over 10 years. So it's just is, and I love what Vicki said about standing in your power, because I've done a lot of on-sites with Josh this year, and we have to be able to stand in confidence of the service that we deliver and that it's worth the price. And whatever your membership price is, however you're taking it up, I mean, look at it this way. It's not like you're doubling it, right? Most studios, they're not doubling it. You're maybe tacking on an extra 10, 15, maybe $20. Right. And everybody's like, oh, my members will cancel. Well, I'll challenge you. If your members are canceling for $20 a month, then you really haven't done your job of guiding them through their hero's journey. Maybe you lose 1 or 2 people who had been on the fence about canceling because they're just not coming enough. So part of strategizing when you're doing a price change or a price adjustment, we never call it a price increase, you're just optimizing your pricing, is to look at different journeys for people. So having that downsell offer. So if someone has been on the membership and it's been like, $20 does make the difference for them, then have something for them to keep them engaged. Remember, our goal is to get people on a habitual yoga practice. And the yoga pass is just the means for them to be on that habitual yoga practice. And for some people, I know I had in my studio, and I'm sure Carol and Vicki, you have in your studio, I have people that really only practice maybe 4 or 5 times a month. That's it. However, they do it consistently, right? So that is a habitual yoga practice. I had a lot of, because I was Bikram, so I had a lot of athletes, like triathletes, marathoners, long distance cyclers, things of that ilk. They use their Bikram practice once a week as somewhat of their active recovery day. So if you have athletes, yoga be part of their active recovery day. So making sure you're strategizing around different types of membership. Recurring revenue is recurring revenue, whether it's a full-on unlimited or like the class card that renews automatically. And the other thing to look at too is, and this is, maybe you guys can talk about this, is particularly if you're raising your 10-pack or your 5-pack, whatever your class card package is, do you give another chance for people to buy before the price adjusts? Do you just raise the price and then the next time they buy, do you say, hey, last time we'll lock in this price? You can go both ways. And this is why having a coach on your side to help talk through it. In fact, we do have a whole module on your pricing and analyzing your pricing and what makes sense. And it also can be a good time, if you haven't done so in a while, to clean up your pricing. If you have a bunch of different pricing options, maybe starting to clean those up. So there's a lot of other things that go around optimizing your pricing or changing your pricing other than just deciding on the price you pay. Vicky.
Yeah, so what you just said about the pricing module that we work with in coaching, one thing that's so good about that is we always look at what are the different types of client you have in your business, and do you have an option for each client, because sometimes there's something missing. I'd say the one that's most often is missing is the ones who come regularly, but not that much.
Right.
Like the once a weekers. It's very common that there's only a 10-pack for them, but we would rather have them on something that's recurring.
Right.
So that we have that cash flow and that recurring revenue. So to look at each type of client. Another one that's sometimes maybe not necessary, but it can be the visitors pass. If you are a place where there are a lot of visitors or tourists, to have that like a 1-week pass or something, like a holiday or vacation pack or visitors pack, that can be something. But more often it's the once a week, so to look at that. And then I was just going to say that I think this moment in time, it's not as, I think people are not as put off as they would have been just a year or 2 years ago, because cost of living is going up, and everyone is raising their prices. Every kind of service that you use, and everything that you buy on a regular basis seems to be going up in price. So I think it's a lot less shocking to people right now when prices go up than it would have been. So yeah, for my own studio, I just found out that our electricity cost, it's going to go up from next year with a very scary amount. I was like, really? Okay. So now I myself am thinking about raising prices again. Like I've raised prices twice since COVID started. So it's not like I haven't raised them for a long time. I have raised them. But it's the scariness of not grandfathering people in, because there's a big difference to racing for everyone and letting everyone stay, and it's just you race it for new people.
And
so
that's a good conversation, because and that's where, when you're setting up your contracts, being careful around using words like you're grandfathered in at this price, or as long as you stay on the membership. Because I have studios that are at that point where they've had people for years that are paying. I had one studio where paying like $40, $50 less, and they were high users to boot. And that's when you're kind of like, oh. So that's where you need to look at, if you haven't looked at the language of your contract, of your membership agreement, I should say, have the couch the phrase in as this is your price until further notice, or something like that, so that there is a way, if you need to adjust your price, that you're not like going back on your word. So that's one thing. And one of the things, go ahead, Vicky.
Now I was going to ask, Carol, did you ever raise prices on like current members? So not grandfather in, but just raised it for everyone?
Oh, we did that often. We tried to get everybody on the same level. And what's interesting now coaching is, like you guys were talking about, some of the studios that I've coached have people are paying like half price off of what the current members, and that's the tricky one. I feel like if it's like a $5 or $10 across the board for everyone on your regular membership, I mean, don't be scared. I mean, and you have to think about it too. Say you do lose a certain fraction of those people, overall, you're going to still be making more money. And again, like if they're not going to stick around, they probably weren't going to stick around long term anyway. So, but the tricky one, and I think what is helpful to have a coach do is talk about the ones that are the big price leap, and how do we get those long-term legacy members up to a closer match of what is the current rate. And we do have some strategies around that, and there's actually a lot of discussion, I think, in the network about it. But I've coached to like let them possibly purchase 3 or 6 month buyout before their contract changes to the new price. So there's some things you can do around that. But yeah, we definitely, especially I think standing in your power, I really felt that after COVID, because we were so restricted. It was easy to say, we have limited spots. This is a membership. It's worth this much, and we have to charge this much for it. And like, it wasn't, I didn't ever have a problem after that, standing in my power and saying, it is worth this. We even had somebody come in and like, they were from, I don't know, another city, and they were commenting on our drop-in prices about how high it was. Like, oh, is this New York? So it's not New York City. And I was like, that's what it's worth. Like, I just felt so confident in saying like, no, a drop-in is X amount of dollars, because that's what it is here. And so I that fear holds people back from really getting what it's worth. I mean, think about the service you're providing is such high level and like needed in your community, and don't be afraid to really charge what you think it's worth and what would make you more money. So
I just had a client when we did the price, and she took her drop-in to $40. I have a client whose drop-in is $45 in Southern California, right? Because it's a drop-in. And here's an interesting one, because I do have a client that it's her studio set as a membership model. There is no class card. There's the membership, and then there's this one that's taken up $40, and she has a drop-in, and that's it. And she has different levels of membership, but it's all membership based, and totally leans into that. This is what Carol said. This is why we're membership based. This is why they have a specific. They also do Pilates as well as yoga, so they have specific equipment, and that's not as unusual in the Pilates world. But even still, she has a lot of yoga classes, and that's her model, and it can work. Now, here's another thing that I just came across. Has kind of not to do with price increases or adjustments. It has to do with how we set up memberships. And I know we've had a lot of conversation about this. I recently was subscribing to a service. Now, granted, the service was only like $15 a month. It wasn't like a huge service. It wasn't like a yoga membership. However, it got me thinking about this again. And I canceled my membership because I just wasn't using the service, fine. And then I get an email just a couple, like last week and whenever it was, say, hey, we noticed you canceled, do you want to, they sent me this great email, and then what about all the perks and everything. And what they allow, which I think is really interesting, because we go back and forth on this, is self-cancellation and self-suspension. So what if we make it just super easy? Because a lot of times we talk about, well, how often should they be able to suspend? Should they be able to suspend for 2 weeks? How do we do that? How do we handle that? And I'm almost thinking now that why not just make it, okay, no contract, suspend, cancel anytime. Here's how you do it. And it's all online. And you back out of it. And then I just was really thinking about that, about why not make it that way? Why are we so up into this? Oh, they have to give us this much notice. They have to do this. They have to do this. They can only do this. They can only do that. And this could be something when you're going to optimize your pricing, is say, hey, this is a new policy. Because that's the other thing when you do adjust your membership, is can you offer them something as an advantage, a new, hey, and we're adding this, and make sure in that email and that hero's journey, you talk about all the perks you get with your membership as well. Just reinforce everything they get, even if they never use it, let them know that this is a perk of membership. Vicki.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually what I already recommend to make like canceling and suspending as easy and as generous as possible with suspensions. I mean, I say make it like max 3 months per year. Why not? If you're in a university town, if you have a lot of like college students around and they go home for term time, much better to have them suspend and come back. And they need that much. Like it's not enough. Like I've talked to so many sort of students and people who work at the universities, they'll say like a month or 2 months, it's not enough. They need that many months. And at my own studio, we let people suspend for anything longer than a week.
Yeah.
They can suspend for just 1 week. It's
Yeah.
very common in the UK to go on these like short vacations a few times a year. So why not just make it as easy as possible?
Yeah,
It makes it less scary for people to sign up. It's actually lowers the barrier to entry.
Yeah, and then that kind of almost begs the question of, because I know that we have a couple of clients that do this. I have a client in Australia. I love it. Their membership is fortnightly. I just love to say fortnightly. And then we have a client in Southern California. Her membership is weekly. Right. So because then it's a much smaller bite. Now, definitely you have to set up for that and get all the back end and all that stuff. But you can with modern technology get that all that stuff set up. And then the other thing, going back to different types of memberships, going all the way back when we were talking before about what is a habitual yoga practice, is this also a good idea to have a membership that is a smaller bite in terms of price. So something like less than like $100 or 100, whatever that sort of point is. Like maybe it's a recurring 3-pack or a recurring 5-pack or something like that. That is a smaller bite. So if people are on a little bit more of a budget, it makes it more of them, okay, I can do this and this is more, will fit more in my budget. So there's a lot of different ways you can get creative in your pricing to encourage that habitual yoga practice, right? Because I think we're always so locked into 10-packs. I guess it's because 10's a round number, right? But why not an 8-pack? Why not a 3-pack? I have a client that does a 3-pack. This is the one that's dropping as high. They have a 3-pack for $99, so it's $33 a class. And that's actually a good one. That's kind of what he used for like his traveler special. So that's like a good one for like out of town visitors can buy if they're going to be around for a week or a weekend or something like that. So kind of getting out of our tried and true, got to be a 10-pack. And also if you've got like 20 and 50 packs on them, first thing I bet all the coaches are going to say get rid of them. Get rid of them. I would say get rid of. I'd say the most you want to have, it would be 10. But again, keep in mind, you can have a 5, you can have a 7, you can have a 6, you can have an 8. And here's another thing. Sometimes rather than raising the price of the 10-pack, make it an 8-pack. Same price. Right? So get creative, think out of the box, but keep it simple. Right?
Yeah.
What was your policy for suspensions and cancellations and all that good stuff? How did you have it? Was it self-cancel or did they have to email? What was the scoop for you?
They had to email 5 days before the billing. And it was on a case-by-case basis. We never really had a full-on policy. And I was always happy, like, even if it was a 2-month suspension, but I knew that they were coming back, I would just tell them, okay, the date of your next payment is here in the future. And if I knew they were coming back, I was happy, because I thought the worse for them to fully cancel and then have to come back and re-sign up, because that's a whole other ask of them to, get off the couch and come in or even go online and like really if they knew that their billing date was coming up and they're going to get back into the studio. So we never had any constraints really on suspension times or that kind of thing. I would usually ask for it to be at least 2 weeks so that I could just I got creative. I felt like too, like I would just, let me charge you half this month, for those 2 weeks that you're going to be out, instead of like adjusting their entire billing situation and, that kind of thing. So we just took it on a case by case basis, and there were certain people there. I can think of like one person who was constantly sort of shifting, and we had to have, at that point, you have to have a conversation with them, right? Like it's a bit too much, but most of the time it wasn't abused, and it worked. Yeah.
Vicki, how do you handle it? So with the suspension, since you're doing it, do you require like an end date for the suspension? Do they have to put in like when they're going to be back, and you've got it set up that way so that they're not open-ended suspension?
Yeah, never open-ended. I mean, that's also what I recommend. Never set up an open-ended suspension unless they are pregnant. Then I think it's okay, or maybe to have some kind of serious injury or illness or something like that. But otherwise, no, never open-ended. And it's very common for people to just write, "Hey, suspend my membership, please." And then you're like, so then our SOP, our operating procedure is that we always write back to them. We set up a suspension. We ask them to give us 1 week's notice, so it can start in 7 days. We set it up to start in 7 days. We make it a month. We write back to them and say, okay, fine, absolutely, we can set it up. It's going to start on this date. Can you please let us know the end date? In the meantime, I've set it up to end on this date, but if you specify it a bit more, I'll set up whatever you say, because otherwise it gets forgotten. Emails come in and they don't come back to us, so you got to set something up. But also, if you don't set the suspension up, that's also like you can't wait for them to get back to your email. People can be difficult to contact.
Well, I was just curious if they can set their to make it as complete, because there's still
I would love
a lot of steps involved in that.
There are. In Mind Body Online, I don't think it's possible to do it.
I'm just thinking of a way to
you can do self-cancellation in Mind Body. But I don't think that you can do suspension. I would love to have that be automatic as well. And, as a studio owner, to set up just the limits so that's set up. And then within those limits, they just go up in and just set them up themselves. That would be great.
Yeah, just trying to figure out, because I know a lot of studios, they do, particularly those studios that with a couple of locations or whatever, or have a lot of people on membership, they have one person practically, that's all they do. And it's just would be like, is there a way? Could we figure out a way to make it
think
that
software-wise, this does not sound like a difficult thing to make in a software, but it's the software developers. They need to have more yoga business coaches telling them what to do.
Right, how to make this super easy.
I think this often.
But also just we've talked about this before, just making it super duper easy for people to do this. So, just give us an email, give us a shout or whatever, just so that it lowers that barrier, that friction, lowers the entry point as well. And again, going back to just if you can offer something in addition to when you're adjusting your prices, or remind them of the perks that they get. And even ones like, you don't think about it, but priority sign in. So if your software enables you to be able to have members sign out unpaid, like in MindBody, you can do that. Where if my membership bills on the 18th, and I want to be able to take Vicki's class next Wednesday, and it's a popular class, so I want to book now, I can go ahead and book that out, even though my billing date isn't billed till tomorrow. Right. So those are some, you can say priority booking. You can keep things really vague, like special discounts on events, workshops, you don't have to put a discount to it. You can I just always said special pricing on, and then would determine the pricing on the thing. And that's why that's another thing you can do in your pricing, when you're pricing things like workshops, retreats, special events at your studio, is I always had a member and a non-member price, right? To reinforce the benefits of membership as well. So get creative on what you can offer people. There's some things you can offer them that really don't take much and aren't a big out-of-pocket expense for you, but yet add value to what you do. And then always have your top tier membership being the one that has the most perks. I know so a lot of studios offer like mat and towel service as an add-on or as a perk. Me, never. I would never do that. For one thing, we had to tell. Yeah, it was like, oh. Anyway, so yeah, those are just some thoughts on pricing adjustments. And I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid. Right. And and I love what you said at the top is don't apologize. You think the grocery store apologizes, or the gas station apologizes, or Target, or whoever apologizes when they have to raise their prices? It's more expensive to go out to eat right now, right? Because cost of food has gone way up. So, but people are still going out to eat, I paid, $20 for basically a salad with chicken on it the other day. It was 19 with I was like, I didn't think twice about it. I just paid it for a salad with chicken. So
don't come to Sweden, you'll pay more.
Yeah. Anyway, what else is going on?
With chicken.
I know, Vicki, you got to bounce in just a little bit. Yeah, Vicki, you've got your tell us a little bit about, give us a teaser about your webinar.
All right. Okay, yes. So I'm going to talk about how to run 5 top tips on how to run a super successful free yoga weekend. So I have run a lot of them at my studio. I feel like now a lot of studios are running them, the studios that I don't even expect. I'm just thinking, wow, okay, this is really catching on now. A lot of places run them, but back then it wasn't a common thing at all. And I met someone who was a yoga business coach, by the way, and she said, you have to do this, right? You have to. She was very adamant. She just happened to be at my studio for a training, and she was like, your drop-in is way too cheap. You need to raise your drop-in and you have to have an open house. I will come and help you. So she came along to my studio. She was there. It's so good. She traveled up from London and she stayed overnight, and she helped me do an open house. I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea. This is like, my studio was brand new. We'd been open for like 6 months. I had no idea what to do. It was super confusing. She showed me how to she was like, we're going to put this bench here. The bench is going to think of it's a little bit like cattle. You have to stop them. The bench is going to be straight across so they can't walk past it. And then we make a bottleneck by the desk. So you catch them there.
So here's a question.
We still do it. Do it at my studio. We still put the bench exactly where she showed me.
And maybe you'll talk about this on Tuesday, but this just came up with a client yesterday. And we can hang out a little bit longer because I know, Vicki, you've got to scoot, but talking about the amount of time between classes.
Yeah. So this is something. So this is specifically when you do a free yoga weekend, you have to have enough time so that you can have a sales think about how many people are there working for you, right? How many people are there? Do you have 3-4 people on hand? How many people are in class? You have to make sure that you can have a sales conversation, or someone will have a sales conversation with every single person before they leave the studio. This is how much time you need. Usually for a free yoga weekend, this usually means an hour in between classes. It's a little bit different depending on how big your studio is, how many spots you have, like how many mat spots you have. So how many people is there going to be? Like, do you fit like 50 people in your studio? You have to think about, there's 50 coming from this direction out of class. There's 50 from this direction coming in. Do you have enough staff to do that turnaround and for everyone to feel seen, heard, and for you to sell them your intro or your special offer? So that's super important for an open house.
So you wouldn't say 15 minutes isn't enough time?
Not for an open house, absolutely not. But I'm going to have to bounce because I need to go and do some yoga.
Okay.
You guys can talk about, like, for a normal class, I would say 15 minutes is very tight, even for a normal class. But yeah, I'm going to go to my yoga class now. I'll see you guys later, and I will see you for the webinar, because then we're going to talk more about what you do, apart from like treating people like cattle, which you should not do, but corralling them in and getting them in front of you, you want to do. That's just one little thing. but I'm going to talk about 5 big things to make your free yoga weekend super successful. And that's the webinar on Tuesday next week. So I'm going to see you then.
12 noon Central. All right. Bye, Vicki. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So Carol, what do you think about, we can chat for just a few more minutes. What do you think about, how much time did you have between your classes? What do you feel as a former business coach or owner and a coach now, what you think is a realistic time between turning classes?
You know, it was, I love that this came up because even I was just in my home studio recently and we now have an hour between, and it's so relaxed. Like, I mean, it gives plenty of time to have the sales conversations, get everything cleaned properly, feel ready for the next class. And I was just thinking how nice it is because we used to have 30 minutes between. Our studio can hold, we cap it at 40, 42 now. Back in the day, we sometimes have closer to 60 and really pack people in, but we've learned, we now know better, we do better. Yeah. And, you know, keep it at a more comfortable rate of people. And like, it's 30 minutes with, like Vicki was saying, like that many people coming in and that many people coming out. It's a whirlwind, plus the, you know, the cleaning that you want to do, the tidying up, that you want to get it fresh and ready for the next class. It worked at the time. We changed it post or pandemic because of the cleaning procedures that we wanted to do. And so that's why we put an hour in between classes after that point. And now that it's still that way, it's like a 20 minutes to have people leave, have the sales conversations, 20 minutes to clean, prep, and 20 minutes for the next class to come in. And it feels really nice.
Because again, this came up, is I know sometimes we're trying to maximize and try to get as many classes as we can in a day and only have like a 15-minute turnaround. And it was like, well, you know, our team can handle it. And I'm like, I'm not doubting your team can handle it. It's like, pretty much you can handle anything. It's just, how is that the experience for the client? Because again, going back to traveling with Josh this year and really being back in and seeing that experience and seeing how important it is to the overall success of the studio, it's like, I really don't believe it. I think you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice. And like, well, and maybe nobody's complaining about it. And how many of them just don't come back because of it? That's the thing.
Right.
It's like something like that. I just feel, even if you're not a hot studio where you have to do like the mirrors, and you know, definitely in a hot studio there's a little bit more cleaning that needs to be done, but even if you're not like a hot studio, I still think 15 minutes is not enough time.
It seems like if that was the case, I think I would try to hire extra staff for that 15-minute window so that everyone got some kind of connection with somebody, you know, a student had a connection with everyone at the studio. I think that's the problem. Like, how am I, if like right now, the way we work it is there's a teacher and a desk person. And if there are even 20 people, 25 people coming in and out at the same time, how can you, it's a lot of, it's a lot of energy to try to like catch everybody, actually make a real connection with them. And how was your class? How is your practice going? I can't do that in 15 minutes, but if I had maybe 2 or 3 more people around, maybe that would be a way to handle it. I don't know.
And you have to also look at, like, for my I had a tiny lobby. How big is your lobby?
Yeah.
And I still recall those classes where it's the same thing. I capped 36 for Beak Room and 30 for IHP. And there'd be nights I'd have 36 people coming out, 30 people coming in, and a small lobby. And just one time I remember looking down the hallway because I had 2 unisex showers and 2 changing rooms and 2 unisex bathrooms, and people were lined up in the hallway. They had to put their backs to the wall and like stand really close, hugging their stuff so that the people could walk down the hallway. And I'm just going, wow. This was in early 2019 when I was thinking, okay, I may need to like either open a second location or expand this one. This is what I was thinking at that point. And I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't, because then this thing in 2020 happened. But anyway, so you also have to think about logistically how that works for your space. And again, going back to what is the client experience? And yes, could you do it in 15 minutes? Sure. I tried it one time. It was horrible, but we made it work. But yeah, you could do it, and it wasn't a great client experience. And thinking about, that's a little bit more like the gym mentality. Is that really giving a boutique fitness or a boutique yoga a curated, nice experience when you're hustling people out like a cattle call?
Right. Right.
Yeah, I just feel that and if you're, and it sometimes as well because the teacher wants it that way. And that's the worst reason in the world to make a decision, because then it's kind of like, who's running this, who's driving this bus? Is it you or is it the teachers?
Right.
So again, scheduling is part art, part science, same thing there. You know, we can help with scheduling, all of that good stuff. So I don't know, anything else, Carol, coming up for you in your coaching call? I know you said you've had some pricing conversations, and what's exciting
Yeah.
on your radar?
Oh, exciting. Well, I mean,
How's your client that just opened? Wasn't this your client's first week?
it was her first week.
How did it
Yeah,
go?
it's going great. She had, the first night, I think there were 30 people through the doors,
Nice.
and she's already got several memberships. We did a pre-sale, like founding memberships.
Mhm.
Already has, several several yearly members. It's super exciting. I'm so happy for her. But yeah, but along with it goes, I think the biggest hurdle right now is teachers, and we've talked about this on some of our previous roundups, but like managing people and figuring out communication styles, and just getting a feel of that. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
So we have some really fun conversations around that.
Right. You know, the hashtag Terry's dad on that. So yeah, that's always that. People conversations are always the toughest ones. So, all right. I think I don't have anything, really prophetic to say at this point. It's August. I feel, even though it's interesting, don't you find that even though, I mean, I never had kids, and at the same, I still think, particularly, I don't know, North America, maybe even in Europe, it sounds like people just slow down in the summer, right? There's just that sort of lazy, hazy summer vibe. So I kind of have that lazy, hazy summer vibe, and I've got a lot of clients and running KPIs for July, still absolutely crushing it. I've had several clients who their Julys were better than their Januaries.
Nice.
So yes, and August is starting out strong. So remember, slow down in business does not necessarily equate to slow down in sales. And if you want to figure out how to get that done, book a call with us. So that next year you don't have that summer slump. Yeah. So, all right, post any comments, questions below. What's your cancellation policy? What do you think about making it just super easy? Remove all the barriers. How much class time do you have between your classes? How does that work for you? What are your challenges? We want to hear from you. So have a beautiful weekend. And not Carol, but Vicki already went off to do some yoga. So everybody else, go do some yoga.
Bye.